Hi, welcome to Nicks-ellaneous ASMR. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm happy to share with you some ideas for the holidays. It's barely the first week of October, but I've already been picking up several little treasures that will be part of our stocking stuffers for the holidays. Since a lot of what we do here is based on triggers, I wanted to show you some of the things that I have and maybe get a little bit of tingle from them so that you can enjoy the sound of them. Not just the actual gifts that they are, but also, let me get this thing out of the way. One of the things I like about doing ASMR is the authenticity of little oops and bloopers. I had my little pad there that's going to go in our new refrigerator. So right here, I've got several little items I've picked up along the way for the holidays. First of all, I have this mini easels I purchased at the, I think it was at Michael's. Either that or at the Dollar Tree. Very affordable. My brother, who is very fascinated by Bob Ross, some of you have watched Bob Ross, loves these types of little items. He's actually painted some little paintings on square canvases. These are here, these mini canvases. Again, a very inexpensive yet enjoyable little stocking stuffer. That's really good for painting, and whether you paint with oils or you paint with watercolor. I think they call that tempera. Some people call that tempera. These little mini canvases, it's from a brand called Artist's Loft, and they have different sizes of these canvases. Look on the back, it's made from wood, frame. It's probably a very inexpensive little item to make. And they have the canvas stretched out to make little stocking stuffers as well. This would be a great stocking stuffer for someone. I'm thinking of my brother Mark, and he likes to make these things. So there's that and these little easels. Okay, that's one thing. And then right here, I found this, I think maybe at Aldi or at Lidl. I don't have good nails. See if you can hear that or not. This is like a set of travel bowls, travel pet set by Zufari. Very affordable little set of 2 bowls. I'd take them apart, but I think that they're wrapped together until you decide to use them. And I don't want to mess up the packaging until it's time for whoever is deciding to is going to receive this. It looks like there might have been a place for a handle right here, maybe a metal piece of metal. Maybe I could actually make that myself and attach a handle there that they could carry. Sorry about that. The ball. So I bought this, I think, for my cousin Diana and her husband Perry for their dog Dottie. She's the most adorable, cute Boston Terrier. Maybe I can insert a picture. And I just don't know how much traveling that they do. But I just met my son Joey's cat as well. And so there's another animal in the family now. The cat is a beautiful black and white, all these different trims, and with white paws. So Joey named him, it's a boy cat, he named him Socks. He likes to call him Sockers. I don't know how much Socks likes to drink or eat, but this would make a nice gift for either him or for Diana's and Perry's dog, Dottie. Usually we spoil Dottie, so. But I'm not so sure Dottie travels that much. Maybe if they're on the go. Maybe I could find another one of these. I'll have to find out where I bought it from. It's been a while. See if you can get the sound of that. See if you can hear that or not. Try to put the microphone a little bit closer. Gotta grow out my fingernails. You can probably hear my voice. I'm wearing Invisalign braces, and because of that, it kind of limits me biting my nails anymore. But sometimes I leave my Invisaligns out. So, unfortunately, I don't have much ways of fingernails right now. But that's another great, actually, gift, maybe more so than a stocking stuffer. Okay. I want to be sure you guys can hear me better. I'm using headphones for this. I don't have the deluxe binaural microphones, at least not yet. Here's another crinkly little item. I may have bought this on Temu or Amazon, probably Temu. It's this watch. Doesn't look like it's moving much. It might need to be wound. Might be need a battery change. I don't know if it's got to be charged, but if it needs to be wound, I don't know. But I love the glow of the blue, and that's very appealing to me. I like that glow. I just thought that would make a great gift or stocking stuffer for a guy. I think it's too wide to be a girl's watch. I was thinking maybe one of my brothers, or maybe my son. My son, he's more into different types of things. I think he'd like it, but I've been giving him a lot of stuff. Anyway. This one is not really crinkly. Once I tap on the cardboard here. This is called a stretchable pleated turban. And my mother, Ruth, wears, some of you know her by a different name. She likes to wear turbans on her head at night, especially, or if she's not out and about. She might take her wig off, and she likes to wear one of these to bed or wear it around the house. So I figured a nice red turban for her to wear to add to her collection would be a nice stocking stuffer. All right, well, that's not all I have terms of gifts, but right now I thought that would be a good start. So what I do have is this roll of Christmas paper, and I just took off, before the video, I took off the wrapper. See if I can find the wrapper. I have the wrapper here somewhere. The paper that it was in. It's really nice and crinkly too. I should have taken it off on video. See if you can hear that. That's the wrapper it was in. But anyway, that's one step we kind of had to skip for now. Anyway, I saw this paper, and I may just go ahead and wrap it in this paper now, but I might rewrap some of them with new paper as well later, because this is nice, but it is kind of childlike paper. It's not a bad to have an option, but I wanted to let you enjoy the sounds of wrapping today. I thought that would be kind of nice for you to enjoy, and do a little bit of cutting, a little bit of taping, and a little bit of wrapping for your listening enjoyment, and some ASMR sounds, get a little bit of crinkling going on, and sharing maybe some Christmas stories. So I decided to go with something a little different. I added some other kinds of paper instead of the paper that I had originally picked out. And as you can see, some of this has already been used. Slide my scissors and my tape out of the way. Should just kind of brag here, explain what this is. I grew up in Chile, South America. Had this poncho for since I was 19 years old. I'm now about 3 times that. Actually, I'm 3 times that age now. So we're talking about 38 years, literally that I've had that poncho. But anyway, and that was a gift to me, not for Christmas though. So I have this, I like this one because it's quite colorful. It's got peppermint stars or peppermint starlight mints and spearmint, both flavors, if you will. I don't think they're scratch and sniff though. And then I've got this one, this paper, just bright. I like how it's bright and red. I like bright Christmas paper. So I may just rotate which one we're going to use. I may have to find a way to set my phone down. I'm trying to think here where, oh, you know what? I do have some way to do that. I can put it, I have an easel that I could use to set my phone on, and then we could actually do the cutting and the taping of the stocking stuffers. Okay, we're gonna try this out. I'm wearing a puka shell necklace. Again, I have plug-in headphones somewhere, but I don't know if I have the kind with the USB-C connection. My phone that I'm using with my camera is my iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I like the camera, I like the microphone, but I'm using earbuds, the generic kind. So I just figured I'd give it a shot and see. And what I did was I put my puka shells around my neck and hung my earbud that's like a U shape around it. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, so first thing I want to try to wrap, I think the easiest thing I could wrap is probably going to be this item right here. So I'm going to move this one out of the way because that's the one we probably may least want to use. And I'm going to move this one aside too because, I don't know, I just like this green. I really like this green and red paper. I don't know what happened there. I think that my phone heard a word and thought I wanted to use AI. Okay, so take 3. Not sure what's happening here, but we'll make it work. Okay, so what we got is this green mixed with red, and just amazing. Of course, one of the things I like to do, if you can see that this has squares, there may be an inch or so squared. It makes it just so much easier if you ever are looking for good wrapping paper. Let's do a little crinkling there. Ask at the store, make sure the wrapping paper you have, and lots of them now have this, it has these squares or some kind of guide to help you cut your paper. You can always use a yardstick or ruler, but this just makes the process a lot easier to cut your wrapping paper, and hopefully helps the process go much smoother. So I'm going to go ahead and take my gift right here. I always liked to watch, even as a kid, I remember Jim Neighbors. He used to be on some of our sitcoms back in the 60s, 50s, maybe 60s, and 70s, maybe. Gomer Pyle, Andy Griffith. And I remember looking at an album with Jim Neighbors singing, because he was an amazing, amazing singer. And he had these presents on his cover of his album that were just perfectly square. Everything was perfectly wrapped and symmetrical, and I always got fascinated by that. So I'm kind of a, I don't know what the right word would be here. That's not politically incorrect. But I'm just a stickler for neatness when it comes to wrapping a gift. And of course, with round presents like the bowls, it might be a trick. To do that right, sometimes I use a box to help those along. But let's start with this one because it's squared off. It makes it a lot easier. So what I do is I try to gauge both length and width on my wrapping paper. And so this one is taking up about 3 of these squares. And of course, these are squares. So it's going to be about 3 squares each direction. But I usually just let the paper guide it. And so there's just a little lip right here left over. But also you'll notice I'm leaving about a couple squares here on the end for the purpose of wrapping the end later on. Sometimes, because this is not a very thick packet, I just kind of gauge it. Maybe, I think I could go with 1 square, but I think that might just make it a little too tight. So I give it about 1.5 inches as a compromise. See? Okay, so what I do, now this right here, this little piece can be wrapped and tucked underneath. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to tuck it. One of the things you could do is also tape it, because then it just kind of helps the process. Just take some tape and give it a little piece here that's a little bigger. Okay, and just tape it down. So we'll take it and we'll tape it right there to kind of anchor that extra flap in place. Might not be a bad idea to put it on the end as well. Of course, it's going to affect the maybe the way it wraps around a little bit, but that's all right. Because we're going to show you how to do that, how I do it. You might have your own style for wrapping presents. And if it works for you, by all means, go with your style. But like I said, I like neat packages. There's something about it, the way it looks under the tree. Okay. And there's that crinkly sound again. Sometimes I think it's not crinkling that much, and then I listen to it later, and it's just too crinkly. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off here on the edge, like I said, about an inch, maybe a square and a half. So on the other side, right over here, I want to make sure, let's see if I can zoom in on that. Okay, so here, the other side, see if I can try to do it where you can see it better. I want to go with about the same, and that's perfect actually, because again, the sizes were like 3 by 3. So I'm going to go also over here to about right here, and I'm going to gauge that also on the other side as being my ending point for the cut. So I'm going to be careful not to cut my bedspread. Alright, so I'm going to just make a little cut right there. That's a guide. Okay, so I know that I'm going to be, let's see, 1, 2, well, we could count across, but we don't need to. What's going on here? It seems like that the camera is thinking that I am asking for assistance from AI, and I'm not. And I'm not going to say it because it will do it again. It cuts off the camera. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and flip my gift over, because I want to have 4 sides. So it barely had enough on the lip there for one side. So we're going to not count that. So there we have 2 sides. Then we have a 3rd side. And then we have a 4th side. Okay. I'm going to check and see if you can make out where I am. All right. It's a little bit of a shadow there. So now I'm going to look, and I see on the other side, you can't see it from your point, but I can see another little lip there on the other side. So I'm going to actually take advantage of that lip. You know what? I might add another square, because sometimes we think that we're got just enough and a little bit enough more to spare, and we don't cut big enough. Okay, so I did the same thing, if you noticed, or you couldn't see that. Okay, so right over here, I cut right here on this lip right here as well, a little extra to make sure I've got plenty of paper to wrap this gift. Okay, so I'm going to set my gift aside. And now that I have the 2 little notches right here and up there, I'm going to go ahead and cut I like it because sometimes these papers are so thin enough that you can almost glide your scissors along. Sometimes you cut away from the line, but that's all right. It'll work out. And then if you can see it, I'm going to cut. I found space right here. I'm a left-handed guy, so I'm going to take my left-handed side here. You can always cut from the edge again, but I found my line. I'm going to cut along the line that matches up with the notch that I cut over here. And now I've got a perfect piece of paper to wrap my gift. Okay? So let's go ahead and bring the gift back. And I like to keep the gift, I usually like to wrap the, I don't want to call it the ugly side, but the side on the bottom. I like to keep it, usually that be the side where the ends meet. I don't know, it's just my preference. You can prefer the other way if you wish. So, okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, all right, let's bring it back, is I'm going to wrap, I'm going to bring up the bottom, and I usually like to tape it. Actually, in this case, I'm going to do it here. I'm going to actually tape it to the plastic part. No, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and one up. And tape it right there. All right, because I want to tape a piece of tape down. If you don't tape it to the gift itself or the packaging, what happens is your paper is going to slide around while you're trying to wrap it, and that won't really be helpful when you're trying to wrap the rest of the gift. So what that does is it anchors it in place so that you don't have to worry about the package slipping and sliding when you're trying to wrap the rest of it. Okay, so what's happened here is I taped it a little low here. I might have taped it a little higher, but I'm going to leave it. I'm going to bring the other side. Now, this is going to bring it right to the edge. And I'll be honest with you, I really don't prefer to have the tape paper reach the edge. The reason is when I fold the lips on the end to finish the wrapping, I don't want a lot of loose. Well, you know what, in this case it might be okay. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll take the paper like this and I'll make an extra little lip of my own. That way it's more even as well when you actually, and if you're on a table it's probably better. But if you wrap it here, just make a nice even edge there. It just kind of gives it something special, and it's sort of in the middle now. If you can see that, in the middle, but it's in the middle of the space between here and where you were. And then I like to take my tape. Some people like to take a tape and put it up another anchor piece, perhaps in the middle there, like long ways. I'm not really a fan of that. What I would just do, now there's two ways. You could actually roll the tape into a sticky roll and put it on the underside right here, which you could do. If it's transparent or clear tape, you should be fine. Okay? It just depends on your preference. If you want the tape exposed, or if it's really good clear tape that kind of disappears. For really refined wrapping, you could do that, or get some double stick tape and put it on the underside so that you don't see it. That's really a nice touch when you do it with clear double stick tape. Then you gotta be careful not to get it all gummy, but if you really want a clean, seamless wrap, you can do that. But I'm going to go ahead and just wrap it this way. Okay, and you notice how nice and even that is? See how that is? Nice and clean. It takes a little bit of TLC when you're wrapping presents. Now some people, especially guys, sometimes we're just glad we got a gift, period. You know, you guys watching, you might be like, you know what, just give me a gift bag and it'll be done. But if you want to spend a little time, give a little TLC to the wrapping, I don't know, it just kind of sends a message to the person getting it that you took time and care, not just to give them a present, but you wanted to present, you know, presentation is everything. Okay, so now I'm going to get ready to tuck this end, and we'll fold that down. Okay, naturally. This gets a little tricky when you're trying to do this part. Just, again, just be patient. And you want to get as nice and even of a tuck. It's kind of like when you're making your bed and trying to get a corner on your sheets. Kind of the same idea. If you guys are watching and don't make your beds, then I guess what to find a different analogy. All right, or girls. Yeah, a lot of girls, I think they want to have a neat bed, but guys too. They say in the military. I wasn't in the military, but one of the first lessons you learn is to make your bed. Okay, and if you can see my bed here, I never like to leave my bed unmade each day. So you fold it again like this. Just make sure it's nice and tucked, not crooked. You know, if you're starting to make a mistake, just undo it. Be patient with yourself. And I got a nice corner piece there, okay? Sometimes I like to leave a flat edge there. It depends on how much extra paper I have here, okay? So what I'm going to do is fold that. Okay, it's curling up a little, but not to worry. Fold it up. You see that? How nice that is? Okay. So I'm going to get my tape. Now this is where you might want to do it the long way. If this edge tends to meet with the seam, like this one, in this case it didn't, let's say if it was in the middle, that would be a good place to maybe go longwise, okay, especially a small package like this. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just tape it across. All right, it's really up to you. But it's kind of nice when there's a seam, it kind of hides it, kind of camouflages that, okay? There's a little bit of a bubble there I see curling like that. You could either put a tape here or just leave it since it's such a small package, all right? Okay, and we're gonna just do the same thing here on the other side. I'm gonna fold it. Okay, this one might actually leave a little bit of a piece of white space there. And again, you tuck it just like you did the sheets. You fold this one. See how nice and even that is? It's almost perfect there. Symmetrical. All right. Again, it's your preference, but take time. When you're doing things at Christmas, you know, our world's been kind of in an uproar lately. And had a lot of tragedy in our country. Christmas is coming around the corner, and for some people it's a very rough time. People have lost loved ones. And just the time that you spend showing you care, just taking the time to wrap something neatly and nice, and just it says you love somebody, you care about somebody enough to take time, not just to think of them, but to do something with care. All right. Again, it's not a perfect pack because it's a little, it's a little slanted here, but not a big deal. See how neat that is, though? If you just take a little bit of time and measure out your paper, and if you treat your presents with care, they'll be nice to you back, you see. So that's just one gift here. When you're dealing with packages like this one, okay, let me finish that one. It's a nice gift. Just add a bow, a nice tag, take some time, write a little note, and put that, put it in their stocking. All right, and that's to my brother. Of course, I'm going to tag that. And then, of course, since these go together, I might actually put it in the same matching paper. Sometimes it's nice to see a variety of colors on the tree. Some people like to color match their gifts with their tree. It's just really up to you. What's your preference? But this one right here might need one of two things. It could take a little box, so it makes it more square. It's easier to wrap, as you know, as I just showed you, in a box or in a square type of dimension. That sometimes solves the problem. If you're going to do it just as is, one of the things you could do in this case is actually make a gift bag. Now, you certainly can get a gift bag that's already bought at the store, but that's the easy way, and you can do that and put tissue paper. But if you want to do one like this and make a bag for it, then that's another way you could also wrap this. And I'm going to show you that right now. Okay, give me just a second. So I'm going to use the same kind of paper because those two items, like I said, go together. So we got a little bit thing going on here. Got a little bit of a sniffles here, so bear with me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is kind of even things out, because there's other gifts like that shower, or that genie cap. So what I'm going to do with this paper is I see a line right here, and that would actually even out at least the top. So to make this easier for me to make a bag, I'm just going to cut this right here, and I wouldn't throw this away. This is a small piece, but this would be great for like a jewelry box or some other small, maybe piece of jewelry that came like in one of those hanging pendant holders that you could use for a lady's piece of jewelry, or a guy's. So this is a good piece for something else. Maybe that genie cap could work there. But let's do this. We've got paper. Let me slide this paper out of the way. And so then we've got this right here. Okay. So obviously we can't use the paper that zigzags. What we need is, again, something that's squared off, or actually a rectangle. Okay. So I'm actually going to flip the roll around. Makes it just a little easier. Okay. All right. So like I said, we're going to want this to fit into a bag of its own. It's already in a bag, but we want something that you can make the bag. You're not going to actually wrap it around the gift when you make these bags. When I lived in Chile, we used to live next door to a lady who had fashions and different types of clothing, or different, I think she had some clothing. She sold it out of her front window of her house. She had a glass door, and so she'd have these bags, and other people would have these flat bags that were already pre-made. They were flat, and they were like a wrapping paper. And so I got the idea from that. You make the bag first. It's not really like the gift bags you buy at the store that look like a lunch bag, but more of a flat bag. And then it acts as a packaging for the gift that you're wrapping. So first of all, you got to get a dimension for sure. Okay. So this one, we're going to roll it the way we did with the other gift. Okay. Again, we want to set aside. There's a little lip there. You don't have to have the lip, but it's a good idea. A little extra doesn't hurt. Okay. And we want to have enough remember, when you're wrapping something that's three-dimensional, you got to make sure you compensate and give it enough paper that it will billow out, because when you put it in a bag that's flat, it needs some give. So you got to make sure you're not doing this as if you were slipping a photo or a poster inside that bag. You got to give a little extra on the sides so that it has room to expand. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to give it a little extra here, because I could have enough just to wrap like that if I were to wrap it as is. So I need to leave it, wide enough that it will have room to expand. Okay. So I left about 2 squares this time on that side. So I want to leave the same amount on the other side, and that would be about right here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make that notch like I did the last time. Okay. All right, so there's my notch. And then I'm going to actually roll it up. I've got a little lip there. You still want to leave a little lip. And I'm going to roll it up this way. And it gives me, about a half a square at the top right here. See if you can see that. Okay, right above the bag is about a half there. So again, we want to compensate on the top as well. I'm going to give it another whole square. That means a square and a half, just to make sure we have enough. Okay. All right. So let me take this out of the way. All right. Now, I'm going to do this a little differently. Like I said before, I'm going to cut this along the edge like we did before, along the line. You want to try to stay close. I'm having a little trouble here. Let's try that. There we go. We cut. Okay. It's a little bit longer than the other one, perhaps, but all right. Make sure again you're not cutting the surface of where you are, especially if you're cutting it on a bed like I am. It's pretty normal for people to be cutting Christmas wrap on your bed, because who doesn't wrap their presents in the bedroom? Okay, you might prefer a table. Maybe you have a table in your room. Wherever it is you choose. Okay, so we'll move the paper out of the way so you can appreciate what we're doing here. Okay, so there's our paper. All right, it's a good size. Okay, so in this case, we're not going to be wrapping it around the gift yet. Okay, we're gonna actually fold it up. All right, like that. Okay, we're gonna fold it, and we'll fold it right up under the first square there. Okay, and I'm going to actually flatten it at the bottom because we're making a bag, remember? You just give it a little bit of a nice edge here. All right, it's gonna be the bottom of your bag. Okay, so what we've left here is like a top, like a lid there. But before we actually deal with that top part, we need to also measure. Let's measure our bag here, our gift. We want to be sure. In fact, it might not be a bad idea to tape that down as well, just like you did the last gift. Let's try to tape that down. Okay. Let me shake up the gift a little bit, not too much. I think one piece might be plenty. There you go. Okay. We want to actually measure it, maybe even stick it inside the paper, and make sure you've got enough room. Okay, and you do. You have that lip there that's going to wrap over the top. Okay. All right, so I think we're safe. All right, so what we're going to do, let me actually pull this back down. All right. Okay, so we're going to actually make a seam, and I'm going to actually wrap an edge here. Okay, there. There's a couple ways you could do this. You could take a stapler and staple the edges. I'm not really fond of having staples in the presents though, but you could do that. It will anchor it down. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. All right. So what we want to do again is flatten it out. Okay. So we have the look of a bag already, as you can see. Okay. One problem we do have is, it's not really a problem, it's just a reality, is sometimes when you're cutting you get these rough edges. Okay. So you could actually tuck that, take it right here and tuck. Let's see if we can zoom in on that so you can see it better. All right. You could actually tuck that first edge underneath so you don't use up too much paper. All right, it might change your seam just a little. So I kind of took the first fold I had and folded it in half. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that. All right, and then you're going to fold it again back to where it was. Might have made it just a little wider. That's fine. Okay, so what that does is it evens out, so you still see the decoration. You see the nice look of the paper still, instead of those white edges. All right, so I'm going to tape that down. Again, like I said, you could use a stapler, but you know, you don't want it to look like a book report. You want it to look like what it is, and that is a gift. Okay, put a few pieces there. I don't want to overkill it, but so it looks like something you're proud of, you know. See, it's hiding the tape pretty well, as you can see. And then you're going to take another piece here, tape that down. Okay. All right, and there you go. That's one side, and then you're just going to do the same on the other side. Make sure you can see that. So maybe zoom in again. Okay, so we're going to tuck it. I hope you guys can see that there. Tuck it a little bit more. You might have to be just a little stubborn with the paper, especially if it's thick. This is like a thick wrapping paper. And then you're just going to tuck it again. Okay, you want to be sure you're not over tucking or hogging too much of the paper, because remember, you still got to put the present in it. And you don't want to make it too snug. That's why we said we want to have enough give on the side so that the gift will fit inside. Let's just make sure before we tape it down that the gift will fit. And we see, voila, it fits very well in there, even with the tight edges that we just made. Okay, so let's tape that down just like we did the other one. Okay, do that. You know, it's just amazing what you learn about wrapping and life by living in another culture, even if it's another state. You know, you do things the way they do them. One of the coolest things I saw in South America was people at the farmers markets. They would take newspaper and they would make a bag out of the newspaper print, and they would actually kind of make a cone out of it, and then you could put the vegetables or fruit, whatever, from the market in there and just tuck it together and make it into a bag. Very cool, very awesome, very resourceful way to use what you might consider just to be trash in a good and productive way. And just kind of fascinating. In fact, we used to go to a little office supply store that was down the street from us, or it was kind of, they called it the bookstore, but it was more like office supplies and so on. And they would wrap stuff, even different stores, they would wrap stuff up like a present. They would use butcher paper and string, maybe tape it a little and then use string, tie it up that way like a package. They would do that with cold cuts, they'd do that with different, there's just one of the cool, not wrong, obviously. I say to people, it's different, it's just not wrong. It's just different. Okay, so there's our bag. And now we have our gift. It's going down in there. And like I said before, I like to put the part the back, the ugly side or the side you don't like, usually on the back. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. And now all you gotta do is wrap or close it. Now you can also do this two ways. You can go straight down, or you can do what you did with the other present, which might be neater. In this case, it might be a better idea. And fold the corners down. So I'm folding the corners. You can go straight if you want to, but it's up to you. And then you might want to take it from the middle. One of the best ways you can do this is take it from the middle and then work your way out. Okay, so we're going to fold it like that. Oops, gotta get a good grip here. Okay, like that. Take your tape. In this case, I might just do the straight down just to get it secured, and then I can do all the other side pieces later. Or you could put like one of those stickers. If you have one of those round or those decorative stickers, you could put a sticker in the middle. That would be cool. All right, and then just work my way all the way down. You could just leave it with one piece there if you wanted just a sticker, something decorative, maybe the tag. It's really up to you what you want to do, but I like to make it neat, neatly folded down. Try not to wrinkle it if you're going to do this. Try to get it nice and even. Again, like the last package, I said, just take your time. Don't be in a hurry. Take your time, give it some TLC. It's Christmas. It's worth it, you know? I don't know how many of you listening will celebrate it as Jesus' birthday, but that's what it is for me. And I know that's really what the meaning of Christmas is. And I think he deserves, even in these cases, to do something neatly. God is a God of order. I mean, not everything in life is orderly. We have a lot of messy things in the world. But if you give a little love, and there's something that does for you, it's very satisfying when you do something with time and care. I don't know. Isn't that neat? So that's See how that turned out nice and neat? It looks nice and square. I've already wrapped 2 of my Christmas presents, and I got to bring you along with me on this journey. I would take time for the others, but I think you get the idea. And I hope that this was soothing for you too, with the ASMR effect. Joining me, your friend Nick, on Nicks-ellaneous ASMR. And until I see you next time, have a blessed day. God bless and have a great day. Good night.